to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Blasdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week, we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box.
You ever wake up in the morning, feel like you could be the next president of the United States? Maybe you felt like me before. Bitch, I feel like Bernie Sanders. Let's go. Walk up in the club, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. I don't give a fuck, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Presidential sluts, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Bitch, I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. When I'm in your state, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo. Put food on your plate, I feel like I'm Bernie Sanders. Woo.
And that was Bernie Sanders' trap anthem from AN0MALY. And AN0MALY is a hip-hop artist, news analyst, philosopher, and activist. And listen to this, with no manager, no label, no production team, nothing, AN0MALY reaches upwards to as much as 20 million people weekly on social media. And again,
absolutely,
his song that you heard earlier, the Bernie Sanders Trap Anthem, amassed over 20 million views and was a huge hit of 2016. And speaking of 2016, I wanted to have AN0MALY on the program to talk about this year, 2016, and talk about some of the stuff that wasn't covered, that wasn't discussed, that was spun out of control, and what the hell happened in 2016. So, welcome to Out of the Box Radio, AN0MALY.
Thank you for having me so much. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I was just really, really impressed with the work that you did. I watched a couple of your YouTube videos. Some stuff came across to me on Facebook, and I was just like, really, I go, this guy is out of the box material, you know. Let's talk about,
I appreciate that.
Let's talk about right now. What are you doing right now? What's going on in your world?
Just working hard, I guess, every day. Trying to figure out between the music, a little news stuff, and anything that really works on the internet, and really just trying to get a good message to the people, stuff that's important. And there's so much misinformation in the news, and also, with our election and the current state of the world, it seems like every morning I wake up, there's so much material, it's almost overwhelming. So it's more trying to figure out, pick and choose what to cover, what to talk about,
right?
As opposed to, what needing something, because it's like every morning I get hit with like 20 articles I read, and I'm like, oh my goodness, so much stuff.
One of the piece that I saw online that really got my attention, and when I saw you do it, I was like, boom! All the hair on I swear I had goosebumps. I had the chills. Everything just went straight up, and that was the fake news one. So if you don't mind, I want to play that for listeners. You can find it too, folks, online. You can go to YouTube. You can find it. But this is the fake news bit that AN0MALY did, and this is the piece. This is the one that made me fall in love with you, AN0MALY. So
thank you.
So we're gonna let them hear it. It's awesome, and we'll be right back. Let's let them hear that.
Cool.
You won't hear no other politicians say that. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars to be me, trying to get all the attention, and they still can't do it. And Bernie Sanders gets all the attention, all the respect, and all the love. It's because he's real. It's because he's honest. It's because he's intelligent, and he's telling you the truth, and they can't figure it out. You got the news like, the fake news is taking over. Why are people on YouTube and Facebook? Someone actually came up to me and said, you know why Donald Trump won? I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. How? Let's see, this well-researched, educated person. He said he won because there's so much fake news on Facebook. That's a media lie. Fake news on Facebook. Of course, there's some fake news, but people are going to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter for news because corporate news is that bad. They have all the money, they have all the connections, they have all the visibility that we never have. But yeah, people like me in an apartment are reaching more people. It's not because we're pathetic in our parents' basement. It's because you're so pathetic that people trust us in our freaking houses more than they trust you because you're not honest. And you have all the money. At any second you could change and be the man and still be rich and still have all the attention, but you can't seem to do it. It's because you're fake journalists. It's because you're all bought out corporate journalists who don't have an ounce of respect and accountability. That's why this is happening.
I love that. You know, that's an audio recording, so you can't see, but AN0MALY's like hitting his head like duh, duh, duh. I love that so much. Let's talk about that, man. Let's talk about this fake news. I swear we're living in 1984. The spin now is that Russia is giving us fake news all over the internet, Facebook, and the government is gonna crack down on fake news. What's that all about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a scary precedent. I would say for years now I've known that, corporate media controls almost over 90% of radio, TV, and even internet publications now. So, seeing this election, seeing how they treated Bernie Sanders and gave him no airtime, and when they did, they spun it out of control. They forced Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump down our throat, and then when Donald Trump won, all of a sudden they take no accountability, no responsibility, and they blame fake news, where a lot of people, are on board and they're like, I think it was fake news. But in reality, like you said, your show, what I do, that's alternative news. It's not all, white racist nationalists. I think that's a very, very, very small percentage of the problem and of the alternative news. So to me, it seemed like a massive attack on our First Amendment rights and a grab for them to try to, further control power, where in reality they own most of it now. And even the results of this election, I think, have very little to do with misinformation from alternative news and a lot to do with misinformation from mainstream news and corporate news, and people just weren't buying it this year. We have the internet, and I think it's a huge blessing where you'll get a little bit of misinformation. Of course, there's absolutely fake news, but to crack down on fake news because they had really poor political strategy is ridiculous. And I think it definitely is a threat to, our show, your show, and just anybody really with an outside opinion. So I thought it was ridiculous. So I had to make that video, and I'm glad that actually a lot of times I planned it out, and that one was just a spur of the moment rant. I filmed it, and I was like, what, this is good. I'll just upload this.
Was that one take? Did you do that in one take?
That was one take. And that was
nice.
I kind of went off script, and I threw the rest of the script away, and I was like, what, I think this clip is the funniest. I think it'll go off the most.
Well, it's perfect because it ties into this. It's George Orwell's 1984. The Ministry of Truth, and the state, i.e. the government, is going to dictate what the truth is. And here's the thing. I don't pretend to be the news. Out of the box radio is, we call it, ear candy, audio candy. It's just people's perspective. It's freedom of speech. It's saying, here's something that's happening in our world or with my body or my mind or my heart. And this is what I feel about it. Now, like I said, I don't pretend to be the news. You're not pretending to be the news. We don't have a news ticker underneath us going, right?
But the problem is that the people who do pretend to be the news, they're not accurate information. So that's, they're letting alternative news thrive, where absolutely, like you said, I always tell people, do your own research. I'm not the be all end all, but the problem is that they have no accountability, and they are pretending to be the news, your mainstream media, and they've been spinning stories out of control. And I think, people really fell in love with Bernie Sanders this year. And then even a lot of people, had a strong feeling for Donald Trump. And saw the way that the mainstream media spun both of those candidates, and they had a big majority between the two of them, a lot of Americans' attention. So, I think it really, that's what led people away, and it's been a slow decline because, like I said in the video, you beat fake news by just telling the truth. It's really not that hard. So if they continue to just do everything but tell the truth, it's going to be a rude awakening, I believe, for them, unless they, make a drastic move. But I don't see that happening.
Well, what's funny is that anytime the state or a regime labels something as propaganda, you can bet your bottom dollar on the fact that whatever they're spinning or whatever they're putting out is the actual propaganda. The official story of so many different things, it turned out later it's been a total lie.
Absolutely. And I think that's not only the news's problem, but I think that's America's problem, where I think it's a beautiful, great country. I'm blessed to be here, but you just got to be accountable. There's never a wrong time to say sorry. Just a little bit, like a maybe, but they're so stubborn. It's just going to lead more and more and more people away. And it's almost hilarious seeing, even Hillary Clinton's campaign, they're blaming everybody but themselves, where it's like, man, no matter how much you do it, it's not going to change the truth. So all it takes is, same when you're in a relationship, just a little sorry, a little, self-realization of, maybe I could have done a little better, just a little better. That's all they have to say. But it's like they can't even bring themselves to just say, well, maybe we're a little inaccurate. And it's kind of crazy. And in the age of the internet and information, we're blessed enough to know that something's a little fishy, and it's interesting seeing it play out. But I pray that one day they wake up and just say sorry.
Well, you know what it is?
Nice.
It's the equivalent of like walking in and seeing your husband or your wife, screwing the neighbor, and like, in your bed, and you go, "What the hell are you doing? You just broke my heart." And it's the equivalent of the cheating spouse turning around and going, "I can't believe you don't trust me."
Absolutely.
And blaming her. She threw herself on me, and not not taking responsibility and going, "You know what? Okay, you're right.
Exactly.
I messed up, or
you
whatever."
Nailed it. That's all it takes. Just a little bit from them, just a little give. They could still have everything, and it would be a beautiful for both sides. But you nailed it. You already know.
Well, and let's talk about, because so much of it is about the election. I mean, big news this year, 2016, has been obviously the election. But let's go back before the election, and let's talk about the primary, in particular the Democratic primary, how they not only did they outspend, of course, Bernie Sanders, but then they totally ignored him. And then, they were doing some leaks about how the Democratic Party, which is supposed to represent all the Democrats, okay, the Hillary Clinton fans and the Bernie Sanders fans and whoever else. But let's talk about the fact that kind of went down the wormhole or the memory hole. The fact that that there was a plan in place to make sure that Bernie was not going to get seated, was not going to be represented. Let's talk about that, because that's a huge story that is completely forgotten now that Russia is at fault.
Absolutely. Well, I think at first, I don't know how many times Hillary and Trump, how much more attention they got. Like, it was a blackout of Bernie, like he didn't even exist. And when they had him on, it was socialist, misogynist, just random titles that just didn't even fit Bernie. A massive manipulation. I know before the California primary, they had an announcement on MSNBC, CNN. They said it's over. Like, they pretty much told people it's pretty much over, when it wasn't, when literally, California was the biggest state. So every which way, it was every single day. It was something else. It was some sort of manipulation of the news, of interviews, and they threw everything out in the book to keep him out. And it was a massive mistake, because even with that, as Hillary won, she could have said, I'm going to put Bernie in the cabinet, or it was just the most arrogant campaign, and, from inside the DNC, the Democratic Party, just the most arrogant year I've ever seen in my life. And that's in politics, where it's not particularly been trustworthy or anything, but the strategy was just insane, and the way that they ignored the American people, the heart and soul of this nation, was really, really sad to see. And it, like you said, is forgotten, but it was so hard to follow, and that's what really inspired me to start dropping more videos in the song and stuff, because every day I'd read the news, even to this day, and it's just misinformation upon misinformation from our trusted sources. So I've never seen anything like it in my entire life, how they treated him, and I think they're underestimating how smart people are now, and the fact that we have the internet and we have the ability to know what's going on.
Well, plus
it was wild.
Plus, I think people are waking up, and our bullshit meters are very, they're working really well, and so we know when somebody is lying to us. It used to be,
Absolutely.
They had religion over the masses of population. They would have religion to control people. Then they had, they only had a couple news networks, and it was the trusted news. It was like ABC, CBS, NBC. That was it. And then these the newspapers. But what's happened is there's such a consolidation of media and these news organizations. But there's something that maybe you don't know about. It was, I believe, in the 70s, and I'm not certain if it was the Church Commission. I'm trying to remember the exact Senate hearings, but they had Senate hearings talking about the infiltration of the intelligence agencies inside of these news organizations, meaning major network news, print publications, newspapers, and it was brought out that indeed the intelligence agencies, i.e., if it's the CIA or whatever other secret organizations they have, but that they were infiltrated within the news organizations.
I did not know that, but it's not surprising, seeing what they did in 2016 when everyone's paying attention and awake. God knows, outside of even that, what they were doing back then when no one had any way of knowing. So, I think that's alarming.
I think people are coming to the conclusion, too, that we've all been played. Because even with the two-party system is, it's either drink arsenic or drink, rat poison. And it's like, we don't want either one. We want Grandpa Bernie, But
absolutely. And even Trump, as negatively as he was portrayed, and a lot of times for good reason, he doesn't make too many effort to be a smooth talker at a lot of times, but he was to a lot of people outside of the two-party system. He's no Bernie, but I think that was a rebellion as well, that they failed to realize that people just did not want another politician. They didn't want, a Jeb Bush or a Hillary Clinton. They wanted something different because, like you said, we've been getting played for a long time.
Oh, a long time. What other stuff was on in 2016? What other news stories or things that happened that made an impact on you and that you either took and made a video on or just wanted to get, your perspective out on?
Absolutely. The one strikes me. I just got a really cool message yesterday because I have a Delta flight video that's really, I think it's at 4 million views or something in 24 hours. It's my biggest video, and it's bringing a lot of good people in my direction. And one person from Syria had messaged me, and he said, "Thank you for the fake news video. It's so true. The Western news is portraying Syria all wrong." And, this was the first person I've spoken to directly that's in Aleppo currently. I've read so much about it. I have really good friends that are like very integrity-driven news people, and even they have kind of led me in a direction where I'm like, I'm not sure if that's accurate. So I talked to the guy from Aleppo. He showed me videos, and he said that the whole media narrative that Russia and the Syrian government led by Assad are killing its own people, that it's a genocide on its own people, and that's what almost everybody agrees. That's every news source. He said that's a complete lie. He showed me videos of them celebrating in the streets. It was like a Christmas celebration because apparently Aleppo is actually very religious tolerant as far as the Middle East goes. And he said Assad is a hero. Everybody loves him. He's fighting ISIS, and he's fighting the terrorist forces, and Russia's helping him fight the terrorist sources. Meanwhile, the United States is saying Russia ruined our election. They're not talking about Aleppo at all, but when they do talk about it, not as much as they are the election, they're saying that Russia's teaming up with Assad to commit genocide on its people. So that's something that I definitely think people should look further into, because I got a direct source from Aleppo, and he said it's 100% backwards. So they're saying it's a genocide from Assad and Russia. Meanwhile, Russia and Assad, he says, are fighting off them and he says Aleppo's safe now because of them. So I thought that was very, very important, and also just something it's one of the hardest stories to really understand, because at least with the election we're here, where Aleppo, we're not there, so it's hard to get a real honest perspective.
Well, who's one person, and I would tell you, I would love to see a ticket. Bernie Sanders and Tulsi, I think it's Tulsi Gabbard. She's representative from Hawaii. Aloha, my friend. Not only did she serve in the military, but she is also fierce. This woman is trying to listen to this. This woman is trying to put a bill through to stop our government, our tax dollars, from funding the terrorists that are in Syria, funding the ISIS and Al Qaeda and all that stuff, the rebels, so to speak, whatever.
Absolutely, I think it's like I think it's called the Stop Arming.
Yeah, Stop Arming the Terrorist Act, and nobody will cover it. No news organization wants to really cover it. Nobody wants to talk about it. The House of Representatives, the Congress is just like, because that's all they do.
Absolutely. And that's actually another video I did a month ago where it's somewhere that I believe that Trump and Tulsi Gabbard are on the same page with. They met and they talked about this because, as negatively portrayed as Trump is in the media, one thing that I think he does understand is I think he understands that the Middle East they're lying about, and I think he wants to actually, I believe that he actually wants to stop ISIS as opposed to pretending like we want to. So him and Tulsi Gabbard met, and I did a story on it because all of the media around it was negative, where in all honesty, this is a great thing. Like you said, Tulsi Gabbard, we want someone like that to talk sense into Trump, to have a conversation with him. And they were just slandering him, saying, what's a Bernie Sanders Democrat doing talking to Donald Trump? Like, how dare she? Like, why would she be there? So that was very eye-opening to me, where I was like, that's exactly what we want. Meanwhile, our trusted news sources are talking down to, one of the best politicians we have, meeting with someone and finding common ground to try to stop, terrorism and the genocide that is happening. So I was like, that was very eye-opening, and that's actually something I covered. So I think, honestly, no one will talk about it, but I think Donald Trump is on the same page with Tulsi Gabbard, and the media hates it. And, that's disgusting to see, because that's a really serious event that if they had any sort of, soul or heart, they would never cover it that way, but they are. And like you said, with the Stop Arming Terrorist Acts, they're not covering it like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, you would think that this would get a little bit more than a blip. CNN's I think it was Jake Tapper had her on just in a really small segment. But here's a U.S. government official with actual, character, condemning Washington's, absolute support of, and it's clandestine, but their support of extremist terrorist groups overseas, and it's called the Stop Funding Terrorism Bill. I mean,
yeah, no, straightforward, right? I love it.
It's so ridiculous. It's like, are you serious? Anybody would be behind that. But see, whatever they say, that's why they're like, oh, Aleppo, look what's happening. We need to step in. We need to help these poor people. It's the opposite. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
What's up is down.
It's wild to see too, and it makes me question a lot. Of course, I like Bernie, and Donald Trump was not appealing to me at all. Almost a complete opposite. But when you see someone on the same page with Tulsi Gabbard on that and see how they cover it, it really makes you question how they're covering him other ways. And even in general, like even if these negative things that they say about him is true, if they really cared about the American people, they would be offering solutions and trying to focus on, how he could help. But, they're just every day it's just more and more dirt on him, where it's like if they're not going to cover the fact that, he's trying to work with Tulsi Gabbard to stop terrorists, then, how accurate is all the information that they're giving us on him? So I'm interested to see how it plays out when he gets in office. I think he's definitely a little loose with his words. I think he needs to stop talking on Twitter. There's a lot of things that are red flags with him, but, if he can control himself and not do anything too wild, I think there's potential here where he could make some unprecedented changes in the right direction. And that's, I think, an extremely unpopular opinion now too. But I have to question, what their goals are when they talk about him in this negative light. I've seen them do the same to Bernie and pretty much, like you said, totally everyone I like. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think in Syria, I think he's really trying to actually solve the problem, and I think it really scares them for whatever reason that someone wants to stop terrorism, which is pretty sad. But I guess that's the point we've got to.
Right, exactly. Let's talk about some more highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to call it, of 2016. Right now, our brothers and sisters in North Dakota at Standing Rock are freezing. It's been a very long time. Many of the Native Americans, the different tribal members, are still there because they know because the Army Corps of Engineers said they're not we're not going to allow them to build the pipeline through this, and then the company said no, we're still going to come through.
Yeah,
so let's talk about that.
Partners.
Let's talk about that and the militarization of that. I mean, the response. What did they have? They had water cannons that were, in freezing temperatures on people. Rubber bullets. Sound concussion grenades. What was the other thing? It was like another sound weapon that they use, right?
They're pulling out all sorts of, torturing type weapons that won't kill you but will definitely mess you up. So I mean that was a clear, I was at a lot of protests for that, and that was a clear these people really don't care, to the point where they're going to affect our water. And like you said, they know that it's not for sure, even under an Obama presidency, that the company wants to go through with it, and then once there's a transfer of power, Donald Trump actually has money invested in it. So, and that's one thing I don't think he really cares about or fully understands, science as well as water and, how all that works. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think it was a beautiful thing to see so many people come together this year. And even people on MSNBC finally were like, you know what, this isn't right. So I think it was good to see everybody step up, but like you said, it's not over. So we have to keep our eyes on that situation, and also moving forward, hopefully transition to clean energy and get the politicians and rich corporate businessmen to understand that it's not all about oil.
Well, and here's the thing: the corporate media wasn't covering it until there were literally thousands of regular folks going there. And then remember the I don't even know if it was 4,000 or 3,000. It was a lot of veterans, of military veterans who said, you know
Absolutely.
What, we're going to go and stand in front, and if you're going to go and you're going to attack these people who are just praying and holding their space, you're going to have to come through us. And that's when all of a sudden some media came in and said, oh, look what's going on. And then they kind of backed off a little bit. But
Absolutely.
But they're smart. They're not leaving. They're there still.
It becomes, so many people like veterans or, a force that can't be stopped. We're going to need to possibly protest a lot these next 4 years. So I love seeing the divesting from banks too. I think that was a really brilliant strategy.
The divesting. That just happened.
On top of the veterans, people started to divest from the banks, from I believe Wells Fargo, TD Bank, Bank of America, all the ones that are funding the pipeline. And I think that's going to be a key strategy moving forward with not only this but other corporate greed in the future. If we can affect their money in the right way, I think that'll be a really big move for the people. And I will say too, I think some smart rich people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates are stepping up against, climate change and also corporate greed as far as oil. So I think combined with the people, we do have some very wealthy billionaires that aren't all about money, and they understand the future of renewable energy. So I think it'll work out, but we have our work cut out for us for sure, and it's definitely not over.
Now, another really big news story that was not covered, it wasn't wall to wall. It wasn't like days and days and days and days of coverage. Actually, Kim Kardashian getting her ring stolen had more media coverage than this story. And I'm going to play this. This is another one of your YouTube videos. And man, if people hear this and if you don't get pissed off, folks, if you don't demand answers about this particular subject matter, then, then don't cry when they come after your Social Security, or your kid can't go to school because they got no money, because this is probably one of the biggest stories of the year and nobody knows about it. So I'm going to play this, all right, Anomaly? And
which one is it? Yeah.
Well, you're going to hear. This is Anomaly from on YouTube. This is about the Pentagon. And oh yeah. So let's listen to this. Let's listen to this.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Excuse my language, but what the fuck? $125 billion wasted, and they hid it because they didn't want their next budget slashed. Just remember this anytime you scapegoat someone else. It's the poor people. It's welfare. It's immigrants. We can't do that to education. We can't build better schools. We can't pay teachers more. Yes, we can. We have money to do everything except for stuff that actually benefits people and helps us. I don't even want to get into the $1 trillion jet that we never used. That's for a different day. But what the fuck, ladies and gentlemen? $125 billion wasted. This is a mainstream media story. This isn't fake news and conspiracies. This is your trusted news sources, Washington Post, Fox News. Everybody's reporting on this. $125 billion wasted. Remind yourself of this next time you do mental gymnastics to blame someone else or convince yourself why we can't have better health care, better education, or better things that actually suit us. $125 billion wasted.
Ooh. Now wait a second. That doesn't even add on to. Did you know this? And this is in August of 2016. Okay, right before the whole election scoopity doopity. Right. So they're still talking. They're still talking about Hillary and Trump and Clinton and Trump, and she said this and he said that. This came out. 6.5. Get ready. Hold on to your huevos. $6.5 trillion is missing from Obama's Department of Defense. $6.5 trillion.
Insane. Yeah, that's I was going to say that. I didn't even mention that because it wasn't recent, but that's, I mean, considering that Flint, Michigan, they're still struggling to get legislation passed for $170 million. We have, if you Google how much does it cost to end world hunger, it's actually only $30 billion a year. That's all it costs to end world hunger. So it's just mind-blowing to know that, we're missing trillions of dollars when, it's a sick joke that, we can't do anything that actually matters. But that type of money to be lost or misused is just mind-blowing. It's literally unbelievable.
Well, that was the extent that was added on, because remember the day before 9/11. So September 10th, 2001, right? The day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld, Donnie, announced, and he had a press conference, and very few people were even at the press conference. And he said, well, we can't account for $2.3 trillion. That was the day before 9/11. Yeah. $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon's budget. The next day, crazy. 9/11 happened, and nobody asked about it. Nobody followed up about it. The only congressperson who actually grilled Donald Rumsfeld about the $2.3 trillion that was missing was Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. Now, he was not so happy with her asking him that question, and shortly after, there was some fiasco at the Capitol building where it made her, they wanted to make her look like she was crazy, kooky, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that $2.3 trillion that they couldn't find, didn't know what happened to it, has now ballooned into the 6 point whatever. What did I say?
I think 6.5 or 5.
$6.5 trillion.
It's ridiculous. I will say too, with Donald Trump too, because I was not happy about him or Hillary, and I didn't vote for either of them. I actually voted for Jill Stein, but I will say I do believe he can be the lesser of two evils as long as he doesn't mess up too big, because I truly think he understands that about the government too, that they're wasting money. He's already talking to Boeing, and I believe he got, $70-80 billion planes down to $5 or $6 billion, because it's like these people just don't give a damn. Like, how do you lose trillions of dollars? It's unbelievable. And amongst all the madness, I truly believe that Donald Trump understands this because, I mean, anybody can be better than losing trillions of dollars. Like there's something going on.
Well,
and there's actually a video of him. It's actually interesting. The day of 9/11, he called in to a radio show, and Donald Trump had said, there's no way that was a plane. He was like, I was just in the building. I saw how the structure was built. It was built with the steel on the outside. He said it's one of the strongest way to build a building in the world. And he's just like, I just can't even believe that a plane could bring that down. And that was him the day of 9/11, which is a very interesting listen. They won't play that on TV, but
ooh, gonna have to find that. I'm gonna have to find that and play that.
Donald, you're probably the best known builder, particularly of great buildings in the city. There's a great deal of question about whether or not the damage and the ultimate destruction of the buildings was caused by the airplanes, by architectural defect, or possibly by bombs or aftershocks. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was an architectural defect. The World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation, and it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid, and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel.
Yeah, something was real fishy about that because, like you said, as well as the money transfer, they had I believe the ownership was transferred a week or two before. It was a new owner of the building who doubled down on insurance, and
Larry Silverstein.
just took the building. What's that?
Larry Silverstein.
Yeah, that's, those type of coincidences, put one and one together, it's something that's a little off there one way or another.
You want to hear something really, really wacky? I mean, like, you want to talk about coincidence? It was such a coincidental day that the area of the Pentagon that was hit with whatever it hit, because there was no photo of a plane hitting it. There's not one photo of a plane actually hitting the Pentagon. Not one, okay? And the Pentagon...
Just video?
No, there's no video. There's no video of a plane hitting it.
Oh, you're talking about the Pentagon one, yeah.
The Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Pentagon...
The video footage looked like it was from 1960, right? It was like the shoddy, frame by frame.
Well, no, there was only a fireball, but you don't see a plane hitting the Pentagon. Yeah. And the Pentagon has more cameras than God, okay?
Absolutely.
So the Pentagon has so much camera footage around that building. It is the most secure place on this earth. Now,
absolutely.
The area in which that particular whatever happened at the Pentagon is the area where there were accountants, basically a team and auditors that were there investigating the $2.3 trillion that was missing. Mm-hmm. So all that information, guess what? It's destroyed. So we don't know what happened to the money. It's like, are you kidding me? If you wrote it as a script in Hollywood, they'd throw you out.
For sure. And it's wild, like saying these type of things in 2008, 2009 was, crazy talk, madness. And I remember Alex Jones, I used to listen to him, where I'm not as big of a fan anymore. I think he's a little radical, and he's kind of like corporate news where he'll do anything. But, he was talking about Saudi Arabia funding the terrorists in 2008, 2009. And this year, what do we know? The White House releases official documents that Saudi Arabia funded 9/11. So, the things that were crazy 6 years ago now are just facts. And it's interesting to see for sure.
Oh yeah, no, there's some fishy stuff going on, and I think that, like I said, and I think part of the reason why people are leaving corporate media, they're not watching the news as much, or even picking up the newspapers, is because they know that they're being lied to, and they are reaching out to alternative analysis, let's say, alternative perspectives on what's going on in the world, because it's scary. And they have the ability to reach out to folks like you and to reach out to folks like me through the show And that's why so many people are ditching the corporate media and heading to social media.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting this next year to see what happens. So I think there's a huge, power transfer going on from, the Democratic Party to all of, Trump's hooligans that he put in. So it'll be interesting to see how, corporate news reacts, to see how he reacts. And, I'm interested to see how it plays out. But I will say I'm very optimistic. I'm just an optimistic person. So I know we've got through a lot. If we could get through Bush and the 9/11 madness, I think we can get through this. So I just hope nothing extreme happens as far as, like I said, with the fake news and in general with corporate media. I hope they learn from this and, get a little better. But only time will tell.
Now we've been talking about some of the news stories that were either underreported or not reported or reported wrong or spun out of control. What about let's get we got a few minutes left in the cast. Let's talk about maybe your, I don't know, I know you're not psychic, but maybe maybe what are your predictions? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen in January when Trump comes in?
I think right now it's like a massive tooth and nail scratch by the media, the Democratic Party, and pretty much all politicians to try to, stop him. I think that the corporate news is going to continue. I mean, it seems like they're just going to continue to, talk bad about him and not focus on solutions like they always do. But, I wish him the best because, it's my life in his hands and all the American people in the world. So, I hope he starts going in and saving money. I think if he just doesn't waste trillions of dollars, we could potentially reverse our negative, the fact that we're in debt. We could change that in 4 years if we just don't waste $5 trillion. It's really not that hard. If, people are like, how can we get healthcare? How can we get this? It's like, well, don't waste, $6.5 trillion to start. But I think it's going to be, hard for him to really do anything, though, because all of the positive things that he's trying to do amongst, the things that aren't so smart are being overshadowed by, the TMZ reporting that they're doing about him. It's like a drama gossip session, and it seems like they're just trying to throw dirt on anything and everything he does. So, I'm optimistic, but I truly hope and think that things will be a lot better than people think. But corporate news has to stop scaring people. They need to stop lying to people. They need to start building solutions, because if they continue on the path that they're currently on, it's going to be really sloppy. It's going to be hard for him to do anything good. I think they're going to try to get him impeached as soon as possible. So it's really hard to say. But like I said, I try to, even with myself, I think me and you and our energy matters. The future is not set yet. So, if the people step up, I think that it could turn out good, but it's really on us.
Yeah, and I think with the advent of more and more people coming to social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff, even though now Facebook is going to be they're going to have a whole department making checking out fake news.
Yeah, funded by George Soros, by the way.
Yeah,
that's who's funding the whole thing.
Which is so funny that Facebook, whatever, is going fake book where people have profiles and they show themselves. It's totally not. People represent themselves on Facebook, or fake book as I call it, as being they look like oh, I'm just a model, supermodel, and I live this wonderful lifestyle, and they're like in their parents' basement. It's like, no, it's fake land. It's
absolutely.
And yet,
are they gonna start flagging pictures like you didn't really have fun at that party?
Yeah, exactly. But it's
you just took it for the Instagram. That's not you're not really happy.
I think what has to happen is like just millions and millions of people need to become the media themselves. Reporting.
Absolutely.
Look what happened. So much media coverage was missing from Standing Rock, okay, and what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was there with their cameras. Now, you have a little actress, I forget the girl's name, this little actress who goes down there, and she's got her cell phone and her camera on her cell phone, and she's talking about, and she's saying, here, we're being arrested or we're being taken away. This is going on. And she got that out onto, she got it out on I believe it was on Twitter and Facebook. And they just, people, shared those videos. And I think that's what's going to have to happen. Millions of people are going to have to be the media. If you see a police officer pulling somebody over and then beating the crap out of them, people need to get their phones out and start reporting about what's going on, because the news is not going to report on it. It just seems like it's something that we have to start doing as much as we can.
Yeah, and I think people need to not be scared, not be paranoid. That's become a status quo of like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Like, no scared, no paranoia, more action. More optimism, more be the change. Don't worry. Like, the world has always been crazy. It's never been better in a lot of senses. So as crazy as it is right now, it's truly a blessing. So I think, if 100 million people are scared and fearful, the worst will happen. If 100 million people step up, start recording, start being the news, start being the change, the goodness in the world, I think change can happen very quickly. So I hope that, people stop being so scared and start just taking action.
And speaking of action, what are you looking? It's going into 2017. It's a brand new year. What's on your plate? What do you have planned, or do you want to do in this year, 2017?
I would say I want to hopefully go on tour with my music. That would be a goal, and also start to monetize a little better. I've been getting a lot of views and stuff for years, but money is definitely not a priority. I definitely I want to reach people, and there's a lot of more important things. But at the same time, the more money I have incoming, the less I have to do other things, and the more I can invest in myself, focus on it, and really make the movement bigger. So I would love to possibly join a bigger news network like the Young Turks, anybody, even someone like Fox News, as long as they let me say my piece, say the truth and not lie on any behalf. I would like to either join a big news organization, create my own, have it grow even bigger, and start to monetize it. Possibly, go on tour, or anything I could do to grow in the music industry would be great. I would love to get hip hop interviews and just really say the truth, on any sort of platform, through music, through news. So continue to grow, but definitely monetize. I would love to help my family retire. They're hardworking people.
And you
deserve, my dad is
you deserve that, because you've put yourself out there and you're extremely talented. So if anybody's listening to this and and again, you have a way to hook up AN0MALY, you know what I'm getting? And I'm getting, this is my hit. And as you were talking, I was getting this hit. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to say that. And it's like, no, say it. Actually, what I'm seeing or feeling is that it's going to be like a collaboration, like you and like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 other, like people journalists, the people media, you and a few, it's got a collective. That's what it was. It's a collective. You and a few other folks who have the ability, who already have millions and millions of viewers on YouTube. You guys are going to get together and be a force to be reckoned with, because you by yourself, you got millions and millions of views. But imagine you and 3, 4, 5 other people who can combine your audiences together.
Absolutely. And, I've always worked by myself just out of sheer necessity because no one else was around. And I will say I really appreciate you. It's rarer than it should be, just like everything in this world, to find someone who just wants to connect, to talk, and, cross platforms and just work together. So I will say you're a rare soul for that. Even with all the views, not too many news organizations reach out, radio shows, or even people. And I'm very quick to work together with any sort of good people getting the right message out there. So thank you so much for that. I want to say that.
Well, I've been a radio producer for 15 years. First of all, I know a good story. But second of all, with Out of the Box Radio, the whole idea is to bring folks like you, talented individuals who have great ideas, unique perspectives. Actually, it's you tap into the mass consciousness, and truth is truth. All right. So when you tap into that, our listeners can smell it, taste it, feel it, and they're like, yes, there's another one, and that's all it is. I'm just bringing people, like-minded people together. So now they're gonna follow you and tell their friends about it. And that's all it is, folks. We want you to spread the word about the work that Anomaly's doing. We want you to spread the word about Out of the Box Radio. Is to tell people as much as possible. So Anomaly, how can people how can they subscribe to you? You have a YouTube channel? How do they find you?
Absolutely. First, I'll say Anomaly. It's a little tricky. It's like the word anomaly, but the O is a 0, so it's AN0MALY. If you Google that, you can find anything. My website is legendary.vision, and I have a YouTube channel, Facebook, SoundCloud, Twitter, a little bit of everything. I'll say Facebook is a lot of news, a lot of spiritual stuff. Twitter, I talk a little bit more. So if you're gonna get sick of me, maybe not Twitter, maybe Facebook, YouTube, everything. So just legendary.vision has a link to all my music and all my social media. And Anomaly, it's AN0MALY. If you search it anywhere, you can find stuff. And I do so much. Definitely dig a little deeper because I do music, poetry, news analysis, and I know certain things are not for everyone. So don't see, a car rap video and lose hope. Just maybe transition or use some keywords to find something you like, because I do so much. I know sometimes first impression is everything, and some people see something that, might not be up their alley, but maybe I have something else that you like better.
I think they're gonna love everything you do. So